This episode of the Red and White Podcast is brought to you by SaturdayMorningTailgate.com. Tailgate gear by folks who love tailgating. Check out SaturdayMorningTailgate.com and use the code REDWHITE15 for 15% off your entire purchase of all your tailgate gear. SaturdayMorningTailgate.com, REDWHITE15.
Keep it on the level. Keep it on the level. Keep it on the level. I'm climbing up the. Keep it on the level. Keep it on the level. I'm climbing up the ladder while you in need of a shovel. I can do this all day. I can do this all night.
All right, Wolfpack fans, I'm back with another edition of the Red and White Podcast. I'm your host, Evan, and I really did not want to talk about it this week. But you're going to make me. We got enough, frustration, enough fans out there who are, I guess that you don't want to be alone. And that's it. You're not alone. I feel your pain. And I don't know. I'm going to go all over the place in this episode. The one thing I keep coming about is you lost the Wake game, but not the BC game. And I'm not really talking about the quality of opponent. I'm pretty sure we all believe that Boston College is a better team than Wake Forest. I'm more talking about that the way the game kind of unfolded, and State started really good in the Boston College game, but then all of the mess happened. The block punt, the interception. It was one of those games that you think we lose, and everybody got excited because they won that game, including myself. You win that game in that weird fashion, and you're thinking, all right, this team could probably do it. This team could probably win more games. They can get past their own mental mistakes, this thing that plagues us. And then they go out and play the Wake Forest game, where they didn't make that many mistakes. Sure, there were some drop passes and whatnot, but it wasn't the same caliber as the Boston College game. They were just lifeless and dead, and I'll be honest, I didn't see that coming from this team. I didn't see that type of performance in that, especially in that environment. Thursday night, an in-state opponent, and all the blackout, and they just come out and look dead. And they looked like, and I tweeted this during the game. I'm sitting in the stands and look at the sideline, and they looked bored almost. They weren't bouncing around, waving towels like they normally are. Sure, there was a few of them, but not. I imagine if you go back and look at the tape and compare that sideline with the Boston College game or with another game, there's a dramatic difference in the body language and the energy on the sideline. I still thought we were better. We were going to win that game after, looking at that, and I noticed that, and I'm thinking, all right, Wake Forest is really bad. We should still win this game. And it never crossed my mind as I'm tweeting that out that we would lose that game. Every stat from around the world says we shouldn't have lost that game. Now, I'll read a tweet from the Winston-Salem Journal. Before last night, and I'm going to disclaimer this. This might make a few of y'all sick. Before last night, Wake's defense has allowed touchdowns on 23 of its opponent's 26 red zone trips. NC State had 1 touchdown and 5 trips into Wake's red zone. And you want to talk about vomiting all over yourself. Holy crap, that's unbelievably bad. Unbelievably bad. I don't understand. The red zone offense was just pathetic, and I watched that. I'm at that game, and we got the ball, and Trowell had a nice return, run, run, punt. You're like, God bless America. None of those runs went anywhere. It was negative 3 yards on 3 plays or something like that. Dortch muffs the punt like, oh, God, they're awful. We got this game. This is the opportunity we need. Jump on them. Run, bad pass. Or bubble screen or whatever the hell it was. I forgot. And they went back 8 yards in 6 plays. Just against Wake Forest. So bad. I just don't understand. I mean, I'm with everybody else. My frustration, I was disappointed Thursday night. I wasn't angry. I was real disappointed. And then I was kind of frustrated the next day. And the next day I was angry. Like Saturday, it ruined Saturday for me. I couldn't watch football because all I could think about was that game. And then, I turned on the Carolina Duke game, and halftime they start showing the state Wake Forest clips. I was like, nope, turn it right back off. Went outside, did something else. That was weird, man. I don't get it. I had a couple of y'all, text me and leave me voicemails and whatnot on a regular basis. And one of those guys is Ed in LA. Left me a long voicemail, and I'll play it afterwards. I don't agree with most of it, and I think I'll touch on a lot of his points in this podcast, but I know his feelings aren't alone. And, I know there's a lot of people out there that feel the same way. And just one of his clips in there, I just don't believe that our program at NC State is capable of 10, 11 wins consistently, or competing for the ACC, for that matter, or the Atlantic Division. There's just no possible way this year. We got the perfect storm, Florida State, Louisville, etc., and then lose to Syracuse and Wake. Now, there's no way to really compete for a division crown or an ACC crown. I agree. I think that's why everybody was frustrated. It seemed like the perfect opportunity. Still, you need a miracle to happen. You need Clemson to lose, and it's not likely. They're too good. They're not going to lose. But still, you're playing for that prestige bowl. You're playing for the exposure that Syracuse is playing for right now. And I don't want to say that we're never going to get there, but I think it puts everything into perspective for folks who want immediate results. And I'm not saying it's immediate results. This is year 5 for Dorn. The program is getting better. I'm not ready to abandon ship like a lot of people are. I'm not ready to just say, hey, we can't ever do it. Like, that's not realistic. I don't think so. Shit, man, if I felt like that, then what's the point of even recording this? Right? I want to have a little bit more hope. And I think we can get there. It feels like another opportunity wasted. I definitely get that, and I definitely get everybody's frustration. So what is it? Right? I'm going to answer a lot of the questions and comments that y'all brought. But, what is it? And I tweeted this out early in the week watching the Syracuse game. And I said, Syracuse is another example of superior scheme to overcome middle-of-the-road talent. Last 5 recruiting classes for Syracuse: 50, 54, 62, 57, 52. That's in reverse order. At some point, you got to coach them up. And I think that's kind of where we're at. I think Dorn is doing a very good job with the program. 80%. Off the field, development, recruiting. It's that other piece. And I guess it's probably bigger than 80%, but it's that piece that's on the field. And even the on the field, I don't think is awful. I think there's 2 components that have really let us down. And I think that's the schematics of the offense and the defense and the adjustments. I think, and I've said this for years on this podcast, and even before this podcast, and just anybody who wants to freaking talk to me about football, you gotta go. You can have the players, right? If you have the Alabama players and the Clemson players, then you can be vanilla and just beat people because you're better than them, right? If me and a few of y'all went down to elementary school and played them 5-on-5 basketball, we probably win just because we're better than them. That's not the same thing, man. I think if you want to win on this level and you don't have superior talent, you need to coach them up, and you need to have superior scheme. You need to be aggressive, and you need to try to go for the kill as much as often. That's what's the frustrating part, is they just don't seem to do that, right? I think there's that disconnect in what I think we need, and I think what a lot of people think we need, and what the reality is. I think you look at that Wake game, and the running game was so predictable. And everything was predictable. There's no way that Wake Forest should have beat us that game. And we did everything they expected us to. And once again, I feel like our staff got outcoached by their staff. We didn't adjust enough. We thought we could go out there and do what we have on film and win and push them around, and that didn't happen. Part of it is, execution. I get it. But you also have to put your players in the best position to succeed. The reason these aggressive, pass-heavy systems work is because it's the system, and they have, no matter what player there is, right? If somebody goes down, they plug somebody else in, they do the same thing, and you take advantage of an opponent's weakness. And I don't think we ever do that, and I think that's something that Dorn is missing. Yeah, I don't know why that is either. I know he's learning on the job. I think you can see the growth in him as a head coach over the last few years. But I think this is one area where he's really dropped the ball, so to speak. I think he's put the wrong sort of people in place. So I'm going to get to the user questions because they're all around the same topics, and it's going to give me some more to talk about. James Washington, my man, were we hoodwinked with this team being ranked so high, number 14 this year? Now we have a 3-3 conference record. Only quality wins are versus BC and Virginia. Who's more to blame for the 3 losses, offense or defense? Is recruiting more valuable than in-game coaching and play calling? So I think that's a big question. There's a lot of questions there. Were we hoodwinked? I don't think so. I think this team has the talent to be ranked 14th. I really do. I really think there's enough there on this team to say, hey, we're a top 20 team. I think the scheme has really let us down. And it's easy to point to the defense, right? I think a lot of people are going to look and say, hey, look, they get burned every play. And I'll talk about that. I think that's a concern. But especially in a game like the Wake Forest game or the Syracuse game, you know what you're going to get from your defense. You know they're going to give up big plays. They're going to give up points. It's what they do. You need to scheme around that. You need to plan around that. And the mistake I think our staff makes is that they scheme around that by wanting to go ball control. And I don't think that is how we win games. We make too many other mistakes. you keep teams in, and that's how you lose these games. But conversely, you do Syracuse or Oklahoma State or West Virginia, and you go out there and you score points and you just kick the teeth into these people before they get a chance to even rally. And I don't think we do that. We don't have that killer mentality from the top. And I think that's what holds us back for the most part. I think there's that, if we had that aggressive nature, we have the talent to win and to be 14. And to win these games we're supposed to win because we're better. We have better talent than them. I don't think, is recruiting more valuable than coaching, game playing, play calling? I don't think so. Because you can see teams that, like this Wake Forest team, who can win and compete, and they play tougher than we do, and we have more talent than them. There's no doubt in my mind that we do. This Wake's team's playing their third string quarterback who's never started a game, thrown 15 passes. So you got to have players. Sure, I get that. Especially you want to compete on the high level, but you also have to have superior scheme. There's very few teams that can go out there and win without superior scheme. And maybe it's execution. Well, maybe you need to simplify the play calling so that they can execute it. Maybe you try to throw too much at them and they don't execute any of them right. Right? Jack of all trades, master of none. I think that's a real concern. Fire Nice Podcast. Will, how good is our defense on the hardwood? 13 steals for the game, 13 deflections. Oh, this is basketball. Jesus, Will threw me off. I'll get to that. I'm gonna move that one to the bottom of my list here. How good is our How good is our football defense? Not good. That helps. Put that down here. All right. Tucker Blankenship. Tucker, was Kentucky getting drilled by Tennessee the most predictable thing ever? I mean, Jesus, absolutely. You knew that was going to happen. Kentucky is so similar to us with their quality wins and talent in certain positions, and then just been in a free fall. And that was just an opportunity for us to slide up even farther. And they let it go. They let it pass. And Syracuse is taking advantage of that. Dino Babers, right, is curious if he sticks around, but yeah, I knew they were going to lose. I think that's kind of expected. Tommy, has the Dave Doeren era peaked? I don't think so, man. I really don't, and maybe I'm still too optimistic. But I think he's done a lot to fix a lot of things. But he hasn't addressed this thing that's holding him back. Right? If he's not going to be the game day coach, he's going to let his assistants do their thing, which is what he does. Everybody knows. Then you need to make sure that your assistants are doing their job. And you want to talk about, is recruiting more valuable than coaching? Go look at what Dwayne Leverett is doing with the offensive line. I mean, prior to this Wake Forest game, they've given up 4 sacks all year. 4 sacks. He's coaching them up. He's getting the most out of those guys. And you need that from other positions. I don't think it's realistic to have 7 Dwayne Ledfords in every position, but you can get more out of some of these things, some of these positions, and some of these coaches, and some of these groups than what they're getting. And I think that's the part that Doeren hasn't really picked up yet. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But I think he's still figuring it out, to be honest. I don't think he knows either. It's kind of a weird thing to say. At NCSU 84, just pass, don't run, F the running game, not working. I mean, that's about as simple as you can put it. And then it's funny, I got in a Twitter conversation with James Henderson, Inside Pack Sports. And I understand his perspective is a little bit different than the rest of us. And he's also can't be too critical because, can't bite the hand that feeds you. But he always says it's execution. They passed in the red zone. And, I get it. They did pass in the red zone. But they threw a fade corner route to Amizi. They threw an underneath route to Jacoby Myers, who wouldn't have got in if he caught the ball. And, you're throwing bubble screens. Bubble screens in the red zone? I mean, to me, that's curious. You have a wide open field. You're at the 40-yard line. You don't throw a bubble screen, but you get inside, tight quarters, and you throw a bubble screen where the Wake Forest team is pressed up on the line anyway because you got to score. I don't understand that. And moreover, I think if you look at the film, Thayer Thomas was open several times on a quick slant in the red zone that would have scored almost every time. I know a couple of times Wake dropped a defensive end and tried to cut that off, but we weren't utilizing it. And, that's part of the frustrating thing. They threw it, but then they throw it like bubble screens. It's come on, man. Give us something. We're not talking about bubble screens. We're talking about real passes. And I think the problem with the running game, and it's probably well documented, everybody talks about it, is it's so predictable. How do you line up in that pistol with the tight end over top and run that same inside zone play and expect it to just overpower people when you're, Gillespie's still not 100%. And you just don't have it. And why do you keep doing it? I think that's so frustrating. I saw somewhere where they charted the runs, and it was runs out of that formation versus runs out of other formations. So basically 4 wide. Can you run with 4 wide? And 68% or something like that of State's successful run plays have come from a spread formation. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Why not do that more? Why not get a little creative with the run game? That's the frustrating part with me, and that's on Drink and whoever schemes that with him. And supposedly, Drink is very much in the Gus Malzahn coaching tree, which is one thing I've never been impressed with. Gus Malzahn's offense. I mean, Cam Newton carried him to a national title, yeah. But it's a very high school level offense. The running game especially is so predictable. And we're seeing teams pick up on that and key on it. Token fan forever. Jody. Lucky we have the 2 worst teams in the league left to play, according to the records. Anyway, thoughts on ECU? So I'm going to address that too because, Ed talks about that in his call that I'll play at the end. Yeah, we're going to be favored probably significantly in these last 3 games. Louisville, Carolina, and ECU. But I don't think any of them are a foregone conclusion. I mean, they've given you no reason to expect that they should be. You watch that Wake Forest game, and I think they're better. Wake Forest is better than those 3 teams, but the difference is negligible. I'm not going into any of those games saying, hey, we're going to blow the doors off any of them, especially rivalry games, especially ECU, who is going to be fired up to beat us. They're playing a new quarterback. They're not good. None of these teams are good. And had we got them in August, we probably would have blown the doors off of them. But now, I don't think anybody's giving you any reason to expect us to cruise in these last 3 games. I don't think they're going to lose all 3 of the games, but I don't think they're going to cruise. I mean, I think 2-1 in these last 3 is realistic. I don't think you'd be crazy if somebody said, hey, you're going to lose to Carolina or you're going to lose to ECU. I was like, I don't know. Hadn't given us a reason to think otherwise. And that's what's frustrating because we're better than both of those teams. All 3 of those teams. Aceman 7496. Do you see any positives in the future of our secondary given our level of recruitment? Could Huxtable potentially be a good DC with more speed and agility in the secondary? I could be wrong, but I thought our recent recruiting successes have been for that kind of secondary. Yeah, I think some of those guys are young. I think Ingham's pretty young. I don't know if Huxtable can be a good DC in that regards. And I've talked about how important I think that position is. You look at somebody like Don Brown, who no matter where he goes, he's going to have a number 1 ranked defense. Boston College, he was number 1 ranked defense at Boston College when they were 4-8 that year. With the number 1 ranked defense, unbelievable. He's so good. He goes to Michigan, and 2 years later they have number 1 ranked defense or one of the top defenses. I don't think our scheme, I don't think Huxtable's scheme, and I don't think maybe that comes down from Dorn, but I don't think his scheme puts our guys in the best positions. And I'll give it to Wake, but it's not this is bigger than just one game. They made some really nice catches. Ingram had some pretty good coverage on some of those plays. But I don't think that I don't think they're getting the most out of that secondary, and I don't think that scheme is good. I mean, they played man most of the time. Why not back up into the zone and let Wake, make Wake sustain a drive, and instead of keep giving these teams big plays, big shots. And if you go back and you talk to fans, Georgia Tech fans especially, about like Ted Roof coming in, the similar complaints. I think these guys know a world of football. I think they know so much, but I don't think they're getting the most out of the guys that they can. And I don't think their scheme is putting our level of talent in positions to be successful. I think somebody tweeted something out regarding how bad our defense has gotten, our secondary has gotten since Clayton White has left, but I don't have that in front of me. I'd be curious if there was a correlation to it. I think Clayton White's a good coach. He's probably being successful where he is. I don't know if there's that sort of correlation, but yeah, I don't know. Like I really do feel like that. I really do feel like our scheme is not putting us in that position to be successful. Ingles gonna get burnt. It happens, right? He's a freshman. He's really talented. He does really, really, really well in run support. But you have to know that somebody's going to need to pick up for him and help him out in the secondary. Your deep safety needs to be in position all the time. And they're just not doing that. And some of the play calls, like the end of the game versus Wake Forest, like you're in man and you call blitz, especially that play they scored on. You call a blitz hoping to make a play, I get it, and push them maybe out of field goal range. But you give them the chance to score. I mean, I don't know. Sorry, my outro music just started playing while I was recording. You open up all those potential issues when you do that, right? That's not the right time to play aggressive, in my opinion. Or that's not the right time to, hey, let's make a play, and you give up a touchdown. Like, Jesus, man, they shouldn't be able to drive down the field like that. That's part of it too. Like, what the hell's happening where Wake Forest can run a 2-minute drill or a 3-minute drill and just score at ease when they need to? I mean, shit, they bored the hell out of me during that game with that read option QB keeper or the QB handoff. They just kept handing it to Colburn up the middle. I don't know, man. I'm not happy with Huxtable. I don't think anybody's been happy with Huxtable since he's been here. And they keep saying, again, I agree with you need more talent, but you got to coach them up. You got to get a scheme that these guys can be successful in, that they could be moderately successful in. I don't think they've been moderately successful. And that hasn't changed. When you keep making year 5 and you keep making the same mistakes, this is the same issue we talked about from the beginning. That's not recruiting. That's schematics that are wrong. Rollin Jenkins, looking ahead already, LOL. What is the next season going to be like? Have we peaked with BCQs getting better along with us losing large pieces of offense? I'm kind of worried. I don't know. I'm thinking about Syracuse. They're going to lose a lot of people. And, you're including Dungy, but they're going to lose Babers. I think there's zero chance Babers sticks around. And I'm not sold on them being successful without him. The recruiting hasn't been good enough for them to sustain what they're going to lose. I mean, you can see their numbers, right, in the 50s and 60s, that they'll be good. BC, I guess we got another year of A.J. Dillon. I'm not sure what the rest of that team's going to look like. Have we peaked? I don't think we've peaked, and I think everybody's going to say the same thing about, or did say the same thing about this team last year. Like, oh, man, next year, what are we going to do? Right? You're losing the entire defense. What are you going to do? Well, we have a lot of pieces coming back, and you just got to put it together. It's going to be a drop-off at quarterback, but I think that's, again, where you need to scheme around it. Who's going to be the quarterback? No idea. Hockman, McKay, Leary. So, one of those guys. I just don't. You got to assume you're losing Harmon. He's gone. Jacoby Myers, he could go if he comes back. That's fantastic. You still have a Mezzi. You still have other guys that can catch. I'm not looking at CJ Riley at the moment. You have other pieces, right? And you get some more running back health. Ricky Person, get him healthy, stronger. Zonovan Knight and Jameis Griffin. Get those guys signed and in. I think those are a bit of a difference maker that we're looking for, especially if you stick with Drink and you're insistent on running the ball like you are, then you better have the horses. And I think, they're freshmen, sure, but they're talented, and that adds a little bit of depth that we don't have at the running back position right now. So I don't know. I think without even looking at the schedule, you got to assume right around 8 wins. That's fine, right? If you can do that 3 years in a row, that's probably pretty good. Especially in what everybody else is going to call another rebuilding year. So, like I said, I think Doran's got a lot of good things going for him. I think he's really got some concerns, though. Like, I'm questioning if Drink is back next year. And I don't think he's going to get fired. I think somebody's going to come and recruit him away for a head coaching job. I can just see it now. ECU fires Montgomery and they come get Drink. He's got that reputation of being successful. Got Malzahn, disciple, and all that jazz. And I think he's fun. I think he relates to people. He's kind of energetic, and But I don't agree with his play calling. I don't agree with his system, and that is the bigger concern next year. With defense and offense, those two systems, what is going to change? Because if you don't change anything and you expect the same result, right? Everybody knows that saying. Randy Tuthill talk about soccer. Randy, if you want to come on, tell me about NC State soccer, by all means, please do. I'll gladly have you on. You can record a segment. I'd love to have it. I don't know anything about soccer in general, let alone our soccer. So, yeah, by all means. We've talked about it, though, and kind of beating around the bush. I'm sure some of y'all saw it on Twitter that Kansas seems to be down to Dave Dorn and Les Miles. At least that's what their fans believe. I think that's curious. I don't know. Like, that's interesting, right? I can't see Dorn leaving for Kansas if he wins out. Kansas will have to throw a world of money at him. And even so, like, the situation here is still better than Kansas. The thing is, if he does lose to Carolina or ECU and they throw a lot of money at him, then I could see him maybe saying, well, they're not going to yell at me at Kansas. Right? And you have a little bit longer leash because it's Kansas and they're god-awful. And he's been able to, build a better foundation, and I don't know if he can do it there or not, but it's going to have, that's what that conversation is going to be around. I thought it was pretty interesting that the most of y'all, it was kind of split, stay, leave, indifferent. Nobody really seemed to be kind of one way or the other, like, oh, he's got to go, he should definitely take that job, or no, we got to keep him. And David Stanford tweeted, Dorn has his weaknesses, but I can't handle another rebuilding process. If Dorn leaves, just promote Ledford. So there's a bunch of stuff there. Like, I agree. I think that would be the problem. I think Dorn's done so much right with the program that if he leaves, you better get somebody who's done it before. And that's why I wouldn't promote Ledford, because I don't think he's done it before. Despite how much I like him, I think you change – the dynamic changes when you go from head coach or from offensive line coach to head coach. Keep him. By all means, pay him a lot of money because I think he's a great coach, but I don't know if he's a head coach. I'm going after Scott Satterfield or my man at JMU, who his name eludes me at the moment. Those guys are winners. Those guys have built programs, sustainable programs. They've competed at the highest levels in their respective areas. So that's what I would do. I don't know if I would promote from within. I'd keep a lot of guys for sure, but I think you would need, if that does happen, if Dorn leaves, that you would need to take that approach. I think the opportunity is here, right? State's got so much going for it, recruiting wise especially. And Carolina being down, ECU being down, and Wake being Wake, that there's no reason you shouldn't win those games every year. And you shouldn't have the best program in the state and shouldn't be able to recruit the best talent. He's kind of doing that now, and he's not, imagine if you had door-busting results. Man, I feel like he's really close. I do think he has his own weaknesses. I definitely agree with that. Louisville this week. I'm going to that game with some friends, and I couldn't possibly have picked a worse time to go. Given the way we're playing and the fact that they're awful and just fired Petrino, it's not super exciting to go. So it's always fun to go on a road trip and new stadium. I hadn't been there before. Something I wanted to do and visit Dave Skull of the Red Zone Report. But man, what a bad time. They just fired Petrino and all his kids. It's just, they're either going to come out dead like they normally do, or they're going to rally behind the change. I don't know what to expect. And again, that's another reason why you got to jump on them early and just beat the piss out of them. it's got to be better. And not, you just take all of the hope out of them. But you never know how those teams come back. I mean, the playbook's going to be wide open. They should run all sorts of stupid shit. And they should try any play they've ever wanted to try. They're going to try it. My Louisville friends expect it to be kind of dead. Expect the team to be kind of dead. Just because those Petrino players don't have the same character you would. And then the following week, senior week, with and they play Kentucky. It's kind of a big game. So I don't know what to expect. I know I want us to go out there and jump on them and kick the crap out of them. I also know that it's the poorest timed road trip of all time. I don't know what. Nothing I can do about it. My flight leaves tomorrow morning. Yeah. All right, Fire Nest Podcast. Will. So I'm going to plug Will's podcast if you haven't heard him. Go check him out. Anytime you have more folks talking about state and you have more good coverage and guys that know they're worth talking about, right? It's better for everybody. I can't get enough of this stuff. I know there's a lot of stuff that I won't listen to just because I don't like whatever. I'm going to dovetail away from that. But go check him out. Fire Nice Podcast. He's talking about basketball. How good is our defense on the hardwood? 13 steals for the game. 36 deflections in the first half. Going to be a fun team to watch. Yeah, and Will and I talked about this at the game this past week at the football game. Like it's weird watching the basketball team. There's 10 guys and you can plug in any number of combinations and lineups, and there doesn't seem to be a big drop off, and it's hard to identify who's who, to be honest. There's so many new guys. But what I really love the most, what I really like about Keats, was that during his post-game press conference, they asked about Jericho Helms, I think. And he said something to the effect of, somebody asked him how good Jericho Helms is going to be, or how good is he. He said Jericho's going to play as much as Jericho wants to play. And he goes on to talk about him playing defense and how he pulls out guys, like if they don't make a play, he makes a change. It's like, bam, instant. And I love that. It's like, these guys are going to come out and they're going to play hard defensively, and you've seen what that does with the offense. They didn't even play good against the UNC Asheville, and they scored 100 points. They've scored 100 points in the first 3 games. That's amazing. State's never done that. Well, I think the tweet today was NC State's the first ACC. What was it? First ACC team to win their first 4 games by 40 plus points. First 3 games. Some weird sound like that. I retweeted it. Right, I really enjoy it. I know they haven't played that level of competition. I get it, but the style of play and the fact that they played hard during all of those games, even all those, down opponents, that's a bit refreshing. And that's what you want to see out of the freaking football team. Why don't they do the same thing? Why don't they play hard like that? Why don't they come out ready to roll? Yeah, I don't know. So, man, I got a little bit long on this one. I apologize. I just wish... I'm with all of you, all right? We all feel the same way. There's all that bit of frustration here. We're all in the same boat, man. You think they can be really good, and it feels like another opportunity wasted. But I also feel like at the same time, there's so much right that you just need a few things to change and get better. And you could see them succeed. I really believe that. I really believe that they're very close to pushing that boundary as a program. I also believe you have things you need to address, and I don't know how they do it, right? I mean, there's smart people out there that can figure that out. Do you fire people? Do you help them out the door? Do you just tell them they got to change? I don't know. But you've got to do something better, man. You just can expect the same results doing the same thing over and over again. And it's going to drive everybody mad. And it's going to drive people away. And I don't want that. This is an escape, man. I like watching football. I like talking about it. I like engaging with everybody out there. I mean, my Twitter mentions and whatnot after this Wake Forest game, it was hard to say refreshing after that game, but there was a lot of rational conversation, and I understand everybody was frustrated. But I really enjoy that. I really enjoy going back and forth with y'all. I'm just one of you guys with a microphone. So I appreciate everybody who takes the time to, comment when I'm going to record and give feedback and give questions and those things. I mean, it helps. I do have one more. My email statistician sent me an email. In case you're still doing listener questions response episodes, my hot takes. Number 1, this is why we can't have nice things. Number 2, this is why we have noon kickoffs in September and October. Number 3, this is why we are 5-0. All the pundits say they haven't played anyone, but 2-loss Washington is still ranked higher than us in both polls. This is why game day doesn't come to our game versus Clemson, but goes to BC Clemson for their anniversary special. This is why choosing to do a blackout against a team that wears black is a terrible idea. They think it's a home game. I bet the person in marketing who chose to do a blackout versus this team that wears black is the same person responsible for This Is Our State marketing campaign. Number 6, this is why people leave at halftime to tailgate more. This is why the perception of NC State never changes. And this is why I'm not a comedian. He's right. I mean, all those points are accurate. Except for This Is Our State campaign. We stole that. We stole that from Mississippi State. So that person probably didn't choose to do a blackout, but somebody who agreed to it, probably. Just it's just overall silly things. But all right, anyway, I'll get out of here. I'm just rambling at this point. I got a pack for Louisville to go watch us do something to steal one from Willie Taggart. But as always, thanks for listening. Hang in there, Pack fans. We'll get better. It'll get better. Basketball season's around the corner. At least it'll be fun. And as always, thanks. Go Pack.
On the level, keep it on the level. I'm climbing up the. Keep it on the level, keep it on the level. I'm climbing up the ladder while you in need of a shovel. I can do this all day, I can do this all night. I can do this all day, I can do this all night.
Hey Evan, how you doing? It's Ed from LA. Yeah, I was just calling to vent. I know you're as frustrated as anybody. I know you predicted a really big year for NC State Wolfpack football. I'm trying not to criticize that too much. I knew going into this year we were not going to be as good as last year, number 1. Number 2, I don't believe that our program at NC State is capable of 10, 11 wins consistently or competing for the ACC or, for that matter, the division, the Atlantic Division. There's just no possible way. This year we got not a perfect storm, but we got, Florida State and Louisville are down. But of course we're losing to Syracuse and Wake Forest now, and there's no way to really compete for a division crown or an ACC crown if you can't beat Clemson and you can't beat your regular, division opponents. So anyway, long and short, I really didn't believe that this year we were going to be any better than 7-5 or 8-4. I think that 8 wins is the ceiling for a Dave Doran coach team. I don't care what talent we have on the field. I just don't care what 5-star prospects we have. Our team, our program, we are just not better than an 8-win season and an occasional decent New Year's Eve or day before New Year's Eve bowl. We are not a 10, 11 win type team that goes to New Year's Day Bowls. We don't have that kind of program. We can't recruit that type of player, and we just don't have the coaches that can take this program to that level. We're just an above average program. Nobody's afraid to play us. Nobody's afraid to come to Raleigh to play NC State. I believe now that the Wolfpack, unfortunately, is going to lose the rest of their games. I think that they go to Louisville, they lose that because their confidence is crushed. They're going to go to Chapel Hill and probably lose that. You know, in North Carolina is like a wounded animal waiting for us to ruin our season, and they will, and so will East Carolina. I believe East Carolina, if they win no other games, will beat NC State because Doran is incapable of winning those kind of games. Anyway, I'm just going to let you guys, even Dustin, opine on the podcast. I'll listen. I really believe that we are where we're supposed to be. We're a 7-5, 8-4 at very best, 6-6 program. That's who we are. That's our identity. We just need to embrace it. The rest of the conference is laughing at us. I mean, we'll never compete for the division. We'll never compete for the ACC. That's just who we are. And we're just going to have to be happy with that. And I don't believe if they're 6-6, they should go to a bowl either. Anyway, fire away, guys. And listen, I'd like to say go Pack, but I think I'm done this year. I believe they will lose out. Basketball season has started. Let's look at that. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.